Hello, guys, and welcome to this edition of Woman to Woman. I am your host, Anntricia Bray Smith, your professional mentor and speaker. It is indeed a blessing to be here to greet you on the set today, as today we have a special guest co-host, Miss Tonya Carter. And so we're delighted to have her on the set with us today as we're talking about relationship recovery. And I know that throughout the months of the pandemic that seems to be going on and on and on, this is something that we really, as women, need to sit down and talk about the recovery phases of our relationships, as many of us have made decisions, long-term decisions for some, temporary and short decisions for others. But who better to join us on the set than someone who specializes in the area of recovery. So, Ms. Carter, welcome to the set. Tell our audience today a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Thank you. First, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. For those who are listening, just a brief introduction about me. My name is Tonya Carter. I'm a relationship transformation coach. And my number one goal is to really help people transition from that breakup, from that divorce, into a thriving life. I believe that that's a really big gap when you depart from a relationship, is really going through some level of recovery for yourself, right? Just to because relationships can leave a level of residue that we don't even sometimes be aware of. And so I'm that person that kind of helps you see things in a whole different perspective, so that way we won't continue to move forward in life with that residue, because my goal really is to get the ladies that I'm able to work with to thrive, not just survive.
That is so beautifully said. Mm-hmm. And much of what I do in my work with women is just finding that inner resolve. I work on the you in our being, in our becoming, because that is so important. And most of us, we don't realize that we can have a level of success in the things that we go out and try to do in our business, in our homes. But if we're not well, it really does impact every area of our lives. And so what we see a lot of times in social media, because most of this is where most business is generated from nowadays, is through these virtual relationships. We see many business people who have a business that has the potential to be very successful and have greater amounts of influence. But what we have seen also on the flip side of that is that, like you said, the residue shows up. We see the bitterness, we see the anger, we see those characteristics portrayed through the business before we can actually see the person and what they're able to help us resolve. What steps did you take to get you to the point to where you are now, that your story of what you've been through and what you've been able to overcome and accomplish is not foreshadowed, or let me think of the word. It's not, we don't see your residue before we can see your heart. I guess.
One of the things I did, honestly, is I made a decision. I know that may sound very small, but there's a lot of power in choosing and sticking to the choice even after the feeling is gone. Back in 2015, March of 2015, my father had a heart attack, and it just woke me up. It woke me up to the reality of where I was in my life. Truthfully, it was more than just, it wasn't even about my divorce at that point. It was about the relationship I developed with myself. I didn't like me. I wasn't happy. I used my divorce a lot as my excuse of not being able to do things, or I always had that story on replay. I used being a single mom as my limitation. And the story was what I was I held on to the narrative. And I just realized that, okay, at that time I was 34 years old. And I just did not like the direction of my life. I knew there was better for me. I know the kind of woman that I was. And sometimes in life, you have this idea on how it's supposed to look. And when that dream or that visualization isn't there or it doesn't come into fruition, you don't give yourself the ability to rewrite the script. And that's what I didn't do. I didn't give myself permission to say, you know what? Yeah, this happened to me. Yes, this was an experience. Yes, I do have my children, full time. I'm a single parent. But is that my story though? Like, is this like my reality of saying that I can only have but so much? Is this all that can be given to me now? See, I put myself in a box where I shouldn't have. And so making that decision was very, very important, because you can look back on the past and live in the shoulda, coulda, woulda narrative of what you should have did or what you wish you would have done. And you'll stay stuck in there, and you won't give yourself permission to say, you know what, let me write a new chapter. And I made a decision. I really did. And that was very important. What I find is that some people make a decision today because they're in a certain feeling, and then tomorrow they'll revert back on their decision. And I made a decision to say, you know what, I'm going to give myself permission to see what else is out there. I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know all the answers. The only answer I knew was that I didn't like the woman I had become. That was enough for me to say, I cannot wake up and be 40 and be like this. And I'll be 41 in the next few weeks. And I see one of the biggest things I'm glad I did was stick to my decision. And it wasn't perfect. It was messy. I had to look within. Everything was an inner thing. It had nothing to do with my children. It had nothing to do with my ex. It had nothing to do with nobody but me. And I had to really, really take that level of ownership. It was tough, but it was the most rewarding thing I ever could have done for myself back then.
Absolutely. And Tonya, I must say that it shows up in everything that you do, which is what attracted me to your platform. And to the things that you do. I just see your genuineness in that. And that's what we women need. We need to connect with people that we can grow to love and grow to trust, and really use their story or the work that they do as a pathway to guide us to what we desire to become. Because it's easy for us to look at one another and say, oh, she did it. Maybe she had a silver spoon. We do that. We compare, but our stories are your stories, and right. We're no different than you. We just, like you said, made a decision one day to not just get out here and do a work and to provide a service, but also do the work on us, which I think that it is so important. Now, I want you to think back. I come across one of your recordings that you have on YouTube. And one of the things that you said in that segment of that you done, you said, leaving is only a step in the process. Mm-hmm. There's more to it than just leaving. And I know that many people, even some of the women that I've worked with, they become stuck in some areas because they left. They feel like this is going to be the resolution for their issues. But we find that even though that they've left that relationship, or even that job, this can even be a job, this can be so much other things that we leave, we still become stuck in the moment. So why is it that a recovery phase, why is it that the work that you do is so important than just leaving a situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I always tell people leaving is half the battle. The rest is how you allow it to impact you. And so a lot of the times I think when you tell people they need to heal, they look at it as in a way that something is wrong with me. I need fixing. No one wants to, believe that they need fixing or they're the problem, or maybe they were the victim in the situation. Maybe they dealt with a narcissist and feels like, well, he's the problem or she's the problem. I don't have traits of narcissism. You probably don't, but we got to look at, why did we stay so long? Why did we attract that for so long? Or better yet, what residue did that person leave on you subconsciously in your mind about yourself? What emotions do you have now due to the level of abuse? It's important to really dig deep into that part. And again, looking within takes more work. It takes more muscle to do, to take that level of ownership. As I tell people, recovery is not about blame. It's not about saying you're the problem. It's about saying, you know what, I cannot let what happened to me impact me so much where it stops me from really living a full life post this relationship. Because the reality is that I know we want to compartmentalize this part. I think I know people want to believe that, you know what, I'm just going to leave this relationship and ride into the sunset. But the reality is that if you went through a divorce, if you went through a breakup in a long-term relationship, no matter how much you want to try to slice it and dice it, it has an impact on you. It just does. It has an impact on all of us. I didn't want to accept that reality about me. I was a strong woman. I figured everything out in life. I'm very, I'll find a way. That was one part of my life that I just couldn't figure out. I didn't know why I felt like a failure. I had to dig deep on why I felt that way. I had to understand that it's okay to not be okay. And because I was taught that I'm strong and I could figure it out, I felt like if I keep moving forward without confronting my past, it'll just go away. But the reality is that my past showed up 5 years post my divorce. I tell people all the time, I was stuck in my story for 5 years. 5 years. And I woke up in 2015. My divorce had already took place. It had nothing to do with my ex, though. The divorce story was about me. It was the mindset I had about me. It was me feeling like I was a failure. I wasn't good enough. I had to prove myself to other men. And I kept doing the same thing, only with a different guy. And so that's why I had to wake up. That's why I had to do the recovery. The recovery process has nothing to do with your ex. And this is what I tell my clients all the time. This has nothing to do with him or her. Why? Because they're not in this program. You signed up because you need the help. You want to overcome. So we have to look at you and look at what's going on, not from a place of judgment, but from a place of thriving. If you go in thinking that if you're going to judge and beat yourself up about it, you're going to overlook the whole point of the program or the whole point of recovery. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is really accepting the fact that this isn't about fixing you. This is about really getting to the authentic you that's probably been buried your whole life, and you just don't know that yet. It's really about birthing what's already within, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. It makes very good sense. And you mentioned something about feelings and emotions. And one thing that I know as a woman, that sometimes we are deceived by our feelings and our emotions and those self-thoughts that torment us throughout the day. We take on the label of what happened to us. We take on the label of who mama was or who daddy was, or the things that have happened to us throughout the course of the years. And many times, we hit 40 years old and we realize that, yes, we're a 40-year-old woman looking at ourselves in the mirror, and sometimes we don't even recognize who we are. And I find that it's because that little girl, or that moment to where trauma or those undesirable events have occurred in our lives, we find ourselves stuck in those moments. And so one of the hardest things is to hear a compliment, or to hear who we can become. In your work with women, where do you find the areas where they are most stuck, or what's hardest for them to really hear those positive things, and where does that stem from?
That's a good question. I think a lot of stuff I think a lot of this stuff stems from childhood. Um, we do go back in that part of their life to just look at some things, reparenting, looking at that little girl and really, taking inventory on what she need or what she didn't get. And that part is more of that's the part that many people get a lot out of. Sometimes, and truthfully, when we start to do this kind of work, they start to see more than just them being stuck relationally. It can be financially. It's just really knowing what our relationships are with a lot of different things. Even our relationship with money. I think that's actually a really big thing that many people don't even pay attention to, that most people get a lot out of. But the childhood piece is very important. Just going back, seeing what you needed. What did that little girl need to hear? Some people's trauma may not be on the extreme of maybe sexual abuse or anything like that. It can be emotional neglect. You can have both parents in the home and just didn't get the emotional care that you needed as a child. You've been told that, maybe your love with your parents was very transactional. If you did something, then you were rewarded. If you didn't, that means you didn't do well, and what happens is subconsciously we replay those same patterns. Even as adults, we think that they're separate, but they're not. That little girl is someone you need to, that's always with you. You need to tap into her. You need to have a conversation with her. You need to let her know what she needed as a child. You need to talk to her as if she was a child sitting across from you. And we do things like that throughout the program that I have, but that's very vital for a lot of my clients. They may have known their story, but to really pause and really take a look at their story is the game changer. We're taught as women to just, especially Black women, to just keep it moving. You strong, you got it, you'll be all right. And we wear that with a badge of honor. And so one thing that I really, really teach my clients to do is to stop. Right? That's the hardest thing to do because we're on autopilot a lot. And going from autopilot into a place of awareness is an awakening. And that can be very scary. Why? Because now you have to face what you've always ran from. I hope that makes sense.
It makes so much sense,
Okay.
Tonya. That's why it is that you do what you do, because you help us make sense of the things that we're dealing with. We can't escape us, guys. We cannot escape the woman that we wake up with every day and lay down with every night. And so this is real stuff. And this is what sets you apart from the rest. And with that being said, what kind of women work best with you? Because you only specialize with working with women. And that's kind of what I do as well. I want to work with women, and that's each own personal preference. What kind of women are a good fit for you, and why?
Yes, that's actually a really good question. What I realized is that even though there are a lot of people who may be going through this, I'm not everybody's coach. And everyone's not my client, respectfully, not because I don't want to help. It just depends on where they are. Some people really need to go into some therapy. They need another level of work that I am not built or qualified to do. But one thing that is so important is that you got to make a commitment to yourself. As a coach, one thing that I promise every client that I work with is I'm going to come, I'm going to help you. I got you. Like, that's really something that I take a lot of pride in my work, because this is a gift that God has given me the ability to do. And I don't want to take that for granted. However, when someone tells me they need help and they want to be in my program, the question is, are you going to do the work? I don't care if you pay me full price for my program. If you don't do the work, it's not going to happen. And that's what I tell people all the time. That is a process that no one can bypass. You don't need to have a lot of degrees. A lot of people I work with are high achievers. They're very skilled at what they do. But in the program, that doesn't matter because we are all women and we all struggle and have our own challenges in these areas. What makes us different maybe in the income world is maybe we may be in a different income bracket, but the reality is that doesn't take away from our feelings, our emotions, or any of that. So I'm not interested in what you've achieved. I mean, that's good. You should be proud of yourself, but we're in here to get raw and real, meaning that you have to take the mask off, because that's the mask that we always wear in corporate. We wear it in our businesses. We wear it in our families. We wear it for our friends. We wear it for social media. So when you come to me, I'm not interested in that. It doesn't impress me. What impresses me is your willingness and your commitment to show up. I'm an advocate for that. If I feel like someone really isn't a good fit, I will terminate them out of my program. And the reason being is because it's not because I don't want to see them win. It's really because you can't succeed if you don't do the work. It's not motivational. It's building discipline. And I know the results that you get when you do it. And so I care about them enough to say, I don't think we're a good fit. And I will do that just because I just prefer us not working together if we're not going to be able to do the work. That right there is everything. And you definitely have to be coachable, meaning that my goal is to see things objectively. So I'm not here to like tell you what you want to hear. I got to tell you what you need to know. And that's the hard part, because when you're hurt, you just want somebody to side with you. And I get it. I respect it. The homegirl in me wants to rock with you, but the coach in me wants you to get out of it. And so I have to go into coach mode and say, okay, this is how we have to do it. I know it ain't what you want to hear, but I know this is what's going to work. So is the smaller things, is not technical. If I can get that, giving you the tools is easy.
Oh, wow. You just said a mouthful right there, because I look at some of the things I do as a mentor, that's my end goal. I want to see everyone win. And that's just that genuine nature within us. We want to see everybody win, but sometimes in order for you to win, the truth is necessary. You have to hear the truth. Many of us, we just go along with life and we're dishing it out, but we don't want to take it in any form, not even in love, and not even in that transparency and just being honest to help you get to where you desire to be, because that's the ultimate goal. I mean, it's your desires and what you have set out to accomplish. We can want all these things for you, but if it's not lining up with your ultimate goal, then we can be blue in the face, still preaching to the choir about this and that, but ultimately it's your life, and what you're going to get out of it is what you put into it to heal and to get through recovery and the things that you need to thrive. So Tonya, everything that you have said here today on the set has been much needed. We've never heard it put quite like this before. And this is your level and your lane of expertise. You also have a book that talks about your story in divorce. Tell us a little bit about that book and what it is that you hope for the readers to accomplish with that.
Yes. I wrote this book about 2 years ago. It's called Divorce Your Story. It was a woman's guide to heal and thrive after divorce. It really is somewhat built upon my program. My program goes more deeper. However, for those who may not be ready for the program or who probably can't financially afford it, the book is a good way to start. This book is based upon the things I went through, as well as the things that I needed to do to get through it. And one of the key things is, knowing what the importance of healing is, embracing your singleness, something that people don't talk about a lot, how to rediscover, your voice that you may have lost, and setting goals that will lead you to a thriving life. And so I love this book. It's my baby. I've gotten a lot of great feedback on the book, and basically it all just ties into what I do.
That is so awesome. So awesome. If you would, as we're getting ready to wrap up here today on this Woman to Woman podcast and broadcast, we're here with Miss Tonya Carter. For those of you who are just joining in with us, and we're talking about relationship recovery and the program that she leads in her work with helping women in the recovery phases of divorce. Tonya, tell our audience where it is that they can find you and connect with you, especially for those who may be considering taking that next step into the recovery. Maybe they've already transitioned from leaving the relationship, and how do they know that they're ready to connect with you?
Well, you can connect with me. You can just follow me and just really get a feel of me to see if I'm somebody that you can just relate to. I think that part is so important. And my Instagram and my Facebook is Miss Tonya Speaks. You can find me there. I'm on YouTube as well. I also have a podcast myself called the Reinvent You Podcast. And you can also go to my website, www.tonyacarter.com. You can read about me there, my program, my book, all of that. So I'm pretty much all over the web. And, just, look me up. See if, just follow me. I always tell people, just do that. Build a relationship virtually. Don't just go and spend money on people you don't know. Get an idea on their flow, their consistency. Like, are they really called to do this? Is this something they're passionate about? That is very important. I tell anybody that. Please do that for yourself.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Check out the free before you.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's
make that premature decision for the
absolutely.
fee, and something that we oftentimes, and that those are behaviors, guys. Those are behaviors that we do. We want to jump right in because it looks good or sounds good. But
absolutely,
I commend you in the work that you do, and hope much success continues to flow your way as you're subduing your market in your area of gifting. And that's what it's all about. We appreciate you here on the Woman to Woman set today. Any last words of wisdom that you'd like to leave for the women listening today?
Be intentional. That's something that I say a lot to my clients. Be intentional about your healing. It's very personal. If you know that you're in a place in your life where you're not liking the direction, this is what I always tell people. I know people say, well, what would you like to say to your younger self? My question is, what would you like to say to your future self? And the reason why that's an important question is because one of the things that we cannot avoid is our expiration date here on this earth. That's something we can't escape from. That is we're all going to experience that one day. However, when you get to your older age, what would you want yourself to say in the future? Are you going to say, I'm glad I did this, or I wish I would have done this? I think that's really important to do. I don't care how old you are. It doesn't matter. A lot of us look, well, I'm 50, and listen, the average woman lives to be 85 years old. The average woman. So, that means you got over 3 decades of your life. And to just put a period where a comma should be is very disrespectful to the time that God has still blessed you with. Right. And so I just want to say that because a lot of us are so caught up on what we should have done, what we could have done. But let's rewrite the script. What would you want your future self to say? And from that point on, be intentional. Make your healing personal. Don't worry about everybody getting it. If you're not over it yet, admit it. You don't owe nobody to be strong during this time. A lot of us are hurt because we feel like we got something to prove to other hurt people who won't admit that they're hurt. So do yourself the favor and, say, you know what, this really does suck right now. And I cannot get through this right now. Yes, I take care of my children. Yes, I work. I do all that. But how I'm feeling internally is really affecting me. I'm buried in my work. I'm buried by probably eating food that may not be good for me. I'm buried in going to retail therapy. I'm buried by trying to jump from relationship to relationship. Like, take a moment and just self-assess yourself. And knowing that you need the help is very courageous. That's where the strength lies. And so if you know that that's you, don't keep putting off what needs to be done today. And so that's my message to everyone who's listening.
Wonderful words of wisdom, beautifully spoken. And ladies, you've heard it here, and you've heard it here on the set. She's here, she's available, and she owns what she does. She owns the market in this area, and there's no better person to join us here today to talk about these relational things that we need to own, as she has just shared with us all. So I appreciate you being here. And until next time, here on Woman to Woman, I am your host, Anntricia Bray Smith.